Good morning. Welcome to Truth for Today. This is Dai-Qing Yuan, your host and teacher, pastor of Abilene Bible Church. Today we're continuing our study of the book of Revelation, or rather the revelation of Jesus Christ. This is lesson number 9, part 2. Laodicea, a senseless church for well-being. The text is 3:14 through 22. We are in a project of studying eschatology through 3 essential books: Daniel, the 5 pillars of Matthew, and Revelation. Daniel told us the visible kingdom was down but will be up. There's a prophecy of 70 weeks. After 69 weeks, the Messiah comes. But when he came, Jesus gave us the spiritual kingdom rather than reviving the visible kingdom. And the spiritual kingdom was introduced by Christ, rejected by the Jews, realized in the church. And beatitude is the key. And after the end of the church age, there will be a transitional period called tribulation. And Revelation is mostly on the tribulation, actually. So told us that there will be glorified Christ and church history. After that, there will be the rapture, tribulation, kingdom age. We are teaching the church history part. The book of Revelation is a book, epistle, prophecy, and it's composed of 3 parts: what you saw, things that are, and things to come. Things that are the 7 church ages. And the 7 church ages are literally 7 local churches in the 1st century Asia Minor. They represent 7 types of churches that exist in all times, and they have characteristics. So today we are studying Laodicea, which is called a senseless church for well-being. It wants well-being, but it's senseless what it is. It represents the postmodern church. The 7 periods of church history are represented by the 7 parables by Jesus of the kingdom, and then the 7 letters to the 7 churches, and they represent the 7 church periods. And right now, it is the dragnet, which means God gets his fish through his sovereign power of each individual Christians, but it's not through any big movements anymore. And Laodicea means people rule. Today's churches is populist or democratic, not power from above. It is a postmodern church when experience is emphasized, but truth and faith are not. And then the time is from 1990, the fall of Soviet Union, as the end of modern era, and then until a possible time of rapture. And then if we compare the 7 church periods as these, or 7 kinds of churches, with the whole man, with body, soul, which can be divided into conscience, mind, will, heart, strength, and body. So spirit, soul, and body. And the 7 periods correspond to these 7 parts. Okay, and it seems now it's time for the body. So the bride of Christ has been born through and revived and transformed through all the 7 parts. And in each church period, there's one dominating type, but in almost all the other type also exist. And the 3 major temptations, pride, greed, and fleshliness, came into the church through the Nicolaitans during the time of Ephesus, through the teaching of Balaam during the time of Pergamum, the state church, and then through the prophetess Jezebel through the time of Thyatira, the Roman Catholic period. And that might be the Mariolatry, the idolatry of Mary, which later to the almost like worshiping of a queen of heaven, like Ishtar. Okay, so the church was pretty much dead at the end of the Roman Catholic period at the time of Reformation. So God gave us a revival. That's the last 3 church periods: Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And that's the revival of the mind, the heart, and the will, and through truth, love, and hope. And the angels of the church, you might put Apostle John, Polycarp, Athanasius, Gregory VII, Martin Luther, Hudson Taylor as a representative of the first 6 kinds. And for the 7th kind, which is not settled yet, if you have to recommend one, I would do Kim Clement, who is already dead. Check on him and his teachings. So if you want to teach in this church and be a representative of the servants, then you must teach truth, holiness, and spiritual warfare. Okay, for each letter we have 7 elements: church name, Christ's self-claim, knowledge and praise, criticism and warning, prophecy and proclamation, and then promise. Okay, and not everyone has everything, but everyone has the promise, proclamation, and the promise. Okay, so the church for Laodicea, the name is quite symbolic. Laodicea by itself means people rule. That means the church in this period typically is democratic, the power from below, not from above. Okay, and Laodicea, the historical person, was the first wife of Antiochus II, the founder of the city of Laodicea. And Laodicea was both the cousin and the wife of Antiochus. And Antiochus II, however, he was not faithful. He divorced Laodicea to marry Berenice in order to get a great dowry. And at the end, they were both murdered by Laodicea I. So they wanted, he on the surface, he got what he wanted, the great dowry, but he actually lost his life for it. The flippancy of the founder's marriage is a sign for the ages, both of Greco-Roman time and the postmodern time. People are flippant. Their marriages are, I would say, not stable, and their church belongings are unfaithful, not stable, flippant too. Okay, so there's no loyalty, in other words. In the historical city and the prophecy, we can continue a research on that. The city of Laodicea was the southernmost, which is the lowest in the map, of the 7 cities for the 7 churches. So prophetically, it means that in this church period, the church is the weakest in power in the society. We have not much power to change the politics and the societies. Okay, if we can maintain ourselves pure, that would be pretty good. And then Laodicea was situated at the critical juncture of the 2 Roman highways, to Ephesus and to Pergamum. So it is a commercial center. In other words, prophetically, it could mean that this is a critical juncture in history. Right now, almost all lines of prophecy have come into realization, and you can realize the reality of the church history correspondence, the Gentile empire correspondence, the philosophical history correspondence. All 3 lines now melt together, and we're facing a crisis time and then the beginning of a new era. As the population grew in Laodicea, it needs new water source through aqueducts from Hierapolis. Okay, Hierapolis was a nearby city, and it has a hot spring. Okay, and the spring was water was carried through a duct through to Laodicea. But the problem is, when it arrives, it's already lukewarm. And when water full of minerals are not hot or cold, but lukewarm, it tastes badly. Okay, there is actually another city nearby that has cool water, but it was not conducted to Hierapolis. So prophetically, the population explosion is an issue. That's why today there are people who want to reduce population through doing evil. And then there is a competition of resources. And even if the resources is enough, those who have visions of reduction of population would create the scarcity. Okay, now the historical city and prophecy. The population of Laodicea was diverse in origin. They have Syrians and they have Jews brought by Antiochus II and III. And they have Greeks or Macedonian colonists, and they also have new citizens loyal to Pergamum. They're local from Asia Minor. So prophetically, the time of the Church of Laodicea is a time of diversity, and it has mixed races at the end time. And that's exactly what people trying to do, bring multi-races and mix them together, and so that not one race or country or people group will be too pure or strong. Okay. And then the contrary to Philadelphia's success in evangelism of the Greek language, Laodicea was unsuccessful and kept the native tongue. Prophetically, it's a time of multiculturalism and the refusal of assimilation. Okay, Philadelphia was evangelistic of the Greek language, the historical city. Philadelphia, the church, was evangelistic of the gospel. Okay, but Laodicea was not into assimilation. They are into multiculturalism. It was then, it is now. Okay, Laodicea was wealthy due to trade, because at the crossroad um, uh, the highways, Roman highways. The Talmud actually infers that the Jews there were at the apex of ease and laxity. Well, therefore, prophetically, this is a time of great wealth, with the Jews having a noticeable significance. Okay, compared with other people group. Okay, and then the local god of Laodicea was called Ases, a Semitic word meaning powerful. And prophetically, this time would at the end would be a power, when the power of God is desired more than the character of God. People, so charismatic church love the power of God. Okay, and the secular people love the power of country, of governments or military. Okay, this is a time for power, girl power. Okay, girls like girl power. So everybody love power, but few people love character. Okay, now Laodicea was well known for its medical school. Okay, it follows the teaching of a Herophilos, who lived 330 to 250 BC. That compound diseases require compound medicines. So prophetically, this could mean that this is a time of scientific progress, especially in the medicine for complex diseases. Okay, and well, I'm not going for it. But it has two famous medicines in the historical Laodicea. One ointment for the ear made from spikenard, and one eyeing salve made from Phrygian powder. Okay, prophetically, this is a time when people physically hear and see better, but not spiritually. They don't see and hear these days because of deception, matrix, media, flesh, and whatever. Okay. Now, Laodicea had to import water from the nearby city of Hierapolis, where a hot spring rich in mineral flows downhill in a waterfall of 300 feet high and a mile wide. It's impressive. It was led into Laodicea through an aqueduct, but the temperature became lukewarm. The hot spring was medicinal, but the lukewarm mineral-rich water was nauseating. Okay, that's why Jesus says, "You make me sick. I want to vomit you out." And another nearby city, Colossae, had a cool spring that refreshes, but it does not go to Laodicea. So prophetically, this at the time of Laodicea is a time when healing and refreshing are highly desired, but they are ineffective, not achieved. Okay, everybody is sick. Everybody wants well-being, but nobody gets it. Okay, because we're being poisoned from food to electromagnetic waves to the media and the brain. Okay, so here's a picture of the hot spring of Hierapolis. You see it forms layers and layers of fall, and the minerals have form these solid stairs and steps, and they're beautiful. Okay, now the postmodernism and the end time. That's another thing about the end of this period. To define what is postmodernism, you have to define what's modernism. And define what's modernism, you have to go before into the medieval and classical age of philosophy. Therefore, let's go back to the 4 branches of philosophy and the 4 kinds of fundamental questions. Okay, there are 4 questions that all humans have asked in one form or another, and they are answered by philosophy in its 4 branches. Okay, the one question is, what is there? What exists? Okay, and that branch of philosophy is called metaphysics. Okay, so you have physics and metaphysics. Physics was a book written by Aristotle about visible beings. Metaphysics, which means after the book of physics, in which he wrote about invisible beings. So metaphysics means overall what exists. Okay, it answers the question, what is there? And then epistemology is the question about how do we know? It's the philosophy of knowledge. Philosophy of existence is metaphysics. The philosophy of knowledge is epistemology. These 2 are interwoven because you need to know somewhat what is there before you answer how do we know. And you must know how do we know before you can know what is there. So they are interwoven. And then these 2 determines the 3rd, ethics, what should we do? And these 3 determine the 4th, categorical philosophy, how do we do this? Okay, and now the first 2 are mutually deterministic. The 3rd depends on the 1st and the 2nd. The 4th depends on the first 3. Okay, so here's a picture of the first 2 branches of philosophy, metaphysics and epistemology. And they are interwoven, so things involved about them are related. Okay, and there are, I would call, 3 worlds of epistemology. One is the objective world, something that simply exists, and is called reality. Okay, and then one is a subjective world. That's something that we reflect the reality into our mind as ideas and theories. Okay, and then there is a middle world, which I form the term midjective world, which is between objective and subjective. They are things that exist, which primarily in our mind, but they are the means for the reflections. So they exist pre-experiential. Okay, now that may call it the media or the middle, and the 3 layers of the objective world are nature, man, and the supernatural world. Man has both supernatural part, like the spirit and soul, and the natural part, like the body and the soul. Animals have the lower soul, and humans have the higher soul. And overall, we are a mixture between the 2 worlds. To know these 3 worlds, we have 3 major means. To know nature, mainly we go through experience, and the result of that is science. To know man, we go through reason. The result of that is philosophy. To know the supernatural world, we go through faith, trusting in the revelation from top down, and then the result is theology. And then since not all theories are true, the standards of judging them are facts, logic, and the Bible. Okay, and these I guess 3 times 3 are 9 realms, are the relative beings. Okay, and I have the Chinese one because I wrote in Chinese and English, but I deleted them, but not this one. Okay, so absolute beings is something that is above the relative being. That is God. There is a God who is eternal, and God is triune. And the triune God has 3 persons. The Father is the most objective of the reality. The Son is the means to know the Father, and the Holy Spirit is the person who reveals in our subjective world. And so for God, the 3 persons are not separated, although for the relative beings, the creation, they are separated. Okay, so the these two ways, these two dimensions of philosophy, answering the two questions, how do I know and then what is there, they are the most fundamental questions, and the understanding of this structure is the most important, I think, for any worldview. And this also supports a Trinitarian God, because God must be three persons, because there are three words in epistemology. Okay, and because of that, we have three ways of not knowing: experience, reason, and faith. Therefore, historically, we have four stages of philosophy. Okay, and the first stage was called classical age. It's basically in ancient Greece, and it may be called the age of philosophy. The represented people are Plato and Aristotle. They believed in reason. They are looking for faith. Okay, Plato believed there is a world of forms above. Aristotle believes the forms are essence in our beings. So they point up and down in the painting for the Academy, but overall, they are seeking for something to believe in. And Plato says, he has a cave illustration saying people who live in the cave, never seen the sun, will never believe the sun, even if one person goes out and seeing it and come back and telling it. Okay, so he's saying that our knowledge is limited by our experience, and there are always something higher than our knowledge. Therefore, you must have faith to believe in some revelation from above and beyond. And that faith was found in Christianity. So from circa 500 and to circa 1500, and so about 1,000 years and 1,000 years each. That is the medieval period, or you may call it the age of theology. At the time, people say that philosophy is a maid for theology. Okay, the represented people then are Augustine and Thomas Aquinas. Augustine was Plato like, and Aquinas was the Aristotle like. One is Platonic, one is Aristotelian. Okay, and by the end of Middle Ages, people start to question the many theories. Okay, they're trying to use faith, using reason to put the faith into practice. They form the canon law, and they form the many rules and organizations in churches and society, etc. But people start to question the many theories or branches, and therefore you have the modern period. Okay, modern period started from 1500 to about 2000, about 500 years, and it's the age of science, when people use experience or experiments to test which theory is correct. They have put faith on the least important, reason as second, but experience as the first. And the represented people of this time is Descartes and Nietzsche. Okay, Descartes started he's the one who says, I'm thinking, therefore I'm living. So he believed that reason is the most important, and he tried to derive the existence of God through reason. And Nietzsche is the other side. Nietzsche said that God is dead, and we must seek for Superman. And that around the late 1900s, he lives in the early 1900s, and at the late 1900s or 2000 is the end of modern time, when science has become a theology itself. It became a religion, a scientism, and where reason and diversity is no longer regarded, and a dogma for a single narrative is now not only preferred but enforced. So this is time we enter the postmodern age. Okay, where people don't believe in either faith or reason. They believe in, not even in collective experience, which is experiment, but individual experience. And therefore, in the postmodern age, truth can be your truth versus my truth. They can be different. There's no universal truth. There's no meta-narrative. Okay, and this is the age of memes. Okay, when everything is a image of here and there, and they have their their representative meanings, but all of them are short. So the popular artistic way today are a flash mob, singing, dancing opera, and then sand painting, where you paint it beautifully and then you wipe it away. Okay, the represented people of this era are Derrida and Foucault. They are two French Jews, and Derrida believed that language itself cannot carry truth anymore. And the question is whether he said that carried truth. What he said carried truth. Foucault believes that there's absolutely no absolute in morality. The question is whether what he said is absolute. So none of them are consistent, but consistency is never their concern. They just have an opinion, and they believe that's theirs, and that they are insistent on theirs. They don't care about consistency, but they're insisting on their opinion, and that is all that's important. Okay, so that's the age of postmodern. And you can see it's like a sine wave that goes back, and then there's nowhere to go. So may God have mercy on us. In Jesus' name.